Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to Glory Be. This is episode, I think, like 22 or 23.
We always try and guess, but it's like...
I always chuckle at the beginning when I listen to it.
I think it's episode 22. Regardless, this is definitely, like, at least our third or fourth attempt at recording this, like, a next episode.
Yeah.
We've gotten together several times to record and then been like, wait, we just need to talk.
Yeah.
So,
anyway.
but we finally made it.
We did make it, and we have a topic, and we have a guest.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Welcome, Charlotte.
Yeah.
With Charlotte, we're going to talk about waiting on God. Being in a waiting season.
Yeah.
And what that can all include, what God's trying to teach us, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But first,
our fun thing.
that's you.
That is me. Okay, so fun thing. This weekend, our grad class girls, because we're graduating, and I guess I should say Char's also in our grad class, along with Haley and Addie, who we've also had on. We went to a hotel in the city this weekend. Because we don't live in the city, we live in the country. So that was like a...
It was a big outing for the country folk.
Yeah.
It was fun. We stayed at a fancy hotel, and we just had a lot of fun.
It was very good.
Lots of shopping.
Yeah.
Ate a lot of junk.
We tried to go into the pool
good.
twice, but it was
There were
full
people in it
both
both times. We never made it to the pool
It
or
was
the
sad.
hot tub.
But we did paint tote bags,
We
which
did. Those turned
was
out
so
so
fun.
cute.
Mm.
Anyway.
Did you work on yours at all anymore?
I haven't finished it
Do you
yet.
have acrylic paint at home?
I do have paints. I just
Okay.
need to set aside time and actually sit down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, we're gonna all have new Bible bags for church. It's gonna be so cutesy.
Yeah. So that was fun, and if you are graduating, recommend a grad trip. Just,
Yeah.
like, I mean, you can do it with the guys, but it's funner when it's just the girls.
Yeah.
At least in our class dynamic.
Well, then I mean, like we could all stay in one room and we just did like
We just
girly
hung
stuff,
out
like we
and
shopped and
Wore matching
crafts.
PJs.
Yeah, we were watching films.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing from God. You've been meaning to do this hearing from God for a long time, haven't
I
you?
have.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just distracted with the banging going on outside. I don't know what that is.
They won't be able to hear.
Hearing from God, which is me today. My hearing from God is more of a life update versus something that God has told me. My post-secondary plans have changed. I was going on a big adventure. I was crossing the ocean and heading to Europe for 6 months, but now I am staying in Canada for 4 years. And if you're like me and you love travel, this seems like why would you give up the chance to go travel to stay in basically where you live for 4 more years instead of going on an adventure? Well, God has completely different plans than we do most of the time.
That fits.
And despite it being seemingly, I guess, from other people's perspective, maybe less of an exciting option, I am far more excited about it because I am like 10 times more confident that it's where God's taking me. So
That matters. And you have peace
Yeah.
about it?
yeah.
And you feel good about it?
So lesson to take away is don't care how your plans might look to other people. Don't place unfair standards on yourself. I should have this big adventure, or I should go to university for whatever. Just try to follow where God's taking you and just worry about what he thinks about that.
And don't worry if your plans change 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. Because you'll definitely learn something through it.
Mm-hmm.
That's so funny, too, because when you were going over to Europe for, like, your big adventure, I remember having a conversation and you were, like, worried about it, too. And I'm like, well, if this is where God wants you, stop worrying about it, because, yeah, if this is where God wants you, you're going to have a good time. God isn't just going to send you there not to have a good time. And now, ever since you've changed your plans, you've been just so secure and, like, I don't know. You
At
feel
peace.
like your whole decision, you've had a different mindset about it.
I
Yeah,
haven't heard you say
I do.
one time that you're worried or stressed or anything.
No.
Yeah.
Because
Which
I'm
is-
not really.
Which is a big Like, that's
Which is good.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's from God.
Pretty high about that. Yeah.
That's
Thank
cool.
you, Jesus.
Yeah. The sponsor for today's episode is the band Upper Room. Band? Group?
Worship collective?
Yeah. They are out of Texas. Church in Texas, I think. But
Are they
I don't...
really?
Yeah.
Huh. I didn't know that.
They're a worship team for a church. I don't know if they do other things. I'm sure they put on worship nights, but they have collabed with a lot of different artists and different bands, and they make some really great music.
They do.
And they're on YouTube and Spotify, and it's really nice to just have, like, they have upbeat more music, they have slower music, and it's really...
They've got a good mix of vibes.
Yeah, they're one of my favorite artists to have playing, so go check them out.
Upper Room.
We're not sponsored by them, actually.
Thank you, Upper Room, for quote-unquote sponsoring today's episode. Okay.
Air quotes. Okay.
Let's get into it. So, Charlotte.
About you.
About me. So, I feel like I have very stereotypical testimony for kind of where I live, the people that I grew up with. It's kind of all similar. But I was your typical little Christian kid, and I grew up going to church. I grew up in a Christian family, and I honestly had a pretty solid childhood. I think it was pretty good. And there was nothing too extravagant. Then when I started getting into the end of middle school and into high school, I was starting to feel like, what am I supposed to be doing? What's my purpose in life? And it felt like my faith was just kind of, oh yeah, I go to church on Sunday and then I live the rest of my life. It was almost like two different things. Not like I was living a bad life, but it just didn't feel like I was putting my faith into practice. It was just like I was living each day with no meaning is really what it felt like. So then, yeah, I got into high school, into senior youth, and that's really when I started being like, okay, I want to take my faith and make it my own. I want my faith to be part of every aspect of my life. So that's kind of been my journey, and it's still just an ongoing journey of trying to grow closer to God. I feel like that will never end, no matter how old I get. It's just trying to let more of my life reflect my faith and letting God work through me. So, yeah, that's been my testimony. Yeah. Nothing too extravagant, but it's been great.
I feel like that too, but when your testimony is not super extravagant, then there's people that feel the same way. So then when you share about it, then they're like, oh yeah, I'm the same as that.
That's so true.
Everyone has something that they can relate to.
Yeah.
There's always people to reach, big or small.
With whatever
it always
your
reaches.
Story is.
Yeah.
So we know Charlotte from, we go to school with her, we go to church with her. I've known Charlotte for a very long time, longer than Kedah.
Yeah.
We've known each other through very many horrible haircuts. And a lot of awkward childhood growth stages, I don't know. Just weird
through the thick and thin.
Weird kids together. Yeah. She's our friend. She's our bestie boo.
Like lots of the other people we've had, our lives are just kind of, except for work, everything else we kind of do together.
Yeah.
Which is gonna be, like, I don't want to be ruining the mood, but it's gonna be a really different when we all go our separate ways in fall, because we're used to doing everything together.
Well, like, as long as I've remembered, like I barely know my life without Claire, and the rest of you guys,
church, school.
We just do everything together because it's such a small area. Like,
and we have
that's just your friend group.
Not many girls in our class, and so we have a really good dynamic with the girls, and we all get along.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it'll be a good adventure.
Yeah. And I'm excited.
Gotta grow sometime.
For people to come back and to just like...
Yeah.
Like, oh, this happened to Claire, that's so cool, and this happened, and whatever. All the different people's stories. That's gonna be cool.
It'll be very cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, main topic. We're talking about waiting season, waiting on God, which is, I feel like, it's not a struggle. Well, it can be a struggle, but it's something that happens throughout your life. It's not just once and done. You can be waiting on
Yeah.
this, and you're waiting on this, and this is happening, and whatever. It's not just once, and it doesn't have an expiry. It's not 2 years, and then you're done waiting.
That's what makes it so hard.
Yeah.
I like the one and how you mentioned it's not one and done, because it isn't like, oh, I'm waiting for this, and then I'll never have to wait for anything again.
Once you get that, then you're just good. No, because you'll be waiting on something else then.
Especially since we live in such a fast-paced world, I feel like I'm always waiting for something. We're recording this right now. I'm waiting for when Kedah and I record one after this. I'm waiting for, like, I'm thinking about my to-do list for tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for this email to come through for school. Always, you know.
We're always waiting for
We're always
something.
thinking about things.
Yeah, which is just crazy.
I'm going to start with first talking about how God's line and his plan for our lives is perfect, and how it's sometimes absolutely completely different than ours. Because, first of all, God is a perfect God. He's an immortal being. We're humans.
Mm-hmm.
So our concepts of time is entirely different. It says in the Bible that, like, 100 years is like a day to God. There's something in there. I've heard that before.
So, yeah, something like that.
It's different. And then God's timeline is perfect because he is perfect. He's designed everything in a specific way. And if we were supposed to be in ultimate control of the path for our lives, when things come into our lives and when they leave our lives, then he would have given us that control when he created us, but he didn't. He told Adam and Eve, he told Adam to be like the caretaker of the earth. He didn't tell him to like map out how everything was going to develop. You know, he just told him to take care of what was there. So we're not supposed to like create the perfect lives for ourselves. And I think there's a big culture of that in, I don't know, like young people, that I'm creating my destiny. I don't know.
Media is so bad for that.
Yeah. Like we can't do that.
No.
God's already mapped out where we're going and what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's just there's tension just between us waiting on when he's going to bring
Exactly.
into our lives what we expect to come into our lives, you know?
And then on that point too, it's so hard. Sometimes I'll take a step back and think about my life. When I'm trying to make my own plans, why do I think that I'll be happier in my own way? Because it's like what Claire said,
Yeah.
he didn't design us. We literally weren't made to do that. He's going to do that for us. He just wants us to be willing to let him use us in whatever plan he has for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It ties into control too with we are in control to a point, but we have to accept that we can't control most things. We can't control all the things that God can control. And there are some things in our lives that we can choose to do, but we can't control the outcomes and all the things, which is hard to accept. But once you accept it, I think there's a lot of freedom in that.
Yeah, so making our own plans does not always work out. I don't think we can get too focused on making, like, exact set plans. And I kind of mean this on, like, a big life level. Maybe, like, get married at this age, have kids by this age, blah, blah, blah. Sort of big markers like that. I guess even down to smaller stuff, I don't know, planning. It's just that because we're imperfect, nothing that we force ourselves into is going to be fruitful.
Yeah.
No plans that we put on ourselves or things that if we're waiting on like a really good thing from God, but we see something that's not as good, but it happens sooner because we want it, and so we try to do that. That's not gonna work out either, you know? Because nothing... I talked about this in our identity episode, and it's just so, like, it's so big to me. I think about it all the time, though, because we're imperfect, and we're humans, so nothing that we can create for ourselves, whether it's an identity, how we label ourselves, or plans we have for our lives, nothing that we can create for ourselves is gonna be what's actually meant for us.
Yeah.
Because God's already got it covered. You know?
And that plays into surrender too. Once we finally surrender, then we have to accept that we have to trust that we're going to be happier once we surrender to Him. Wow.
What do you want to say?
When we're waiting, we have to remember that it's just a season. Like it has an end. It's temporary. It's not forever. So I guess I'm saying just like don't lose hope because it's a trial. Like seasons always come to an end, right? And it's not going to last forever, so you just have to look forward to it. And you don't know, maybe the end of your waiting is right around the corner. Maybe it's in an hour, maybe it's in a couple days, maybe it's in a year. We really don't know, so you just have to be ready and just remember that you haven't seen it yet, but it's right around the corner. It might be. We just don't know.
We have to train ourselves, I think, to be content with just being with God. Whether that looks like, because that might not always look like certain situations having breakthroughs in our lives. We want them to. We just have to be content with knowing that we're walking with God each day. Because, well, I'm reading through Exodus right now, and the Israelites were enslaved in Israel in Egypt, for like 400 years or something. I don't know. Longer?
No, it was about that.
It was a
like
very
that.
long time. Then Moses comes around and God works through him to save them. So, okay, we're finally free. This has been generations, 400 years. Then they're wandering the desert for 40 years, right? So, and that's another example of how God's idea of what is good and what needs to happen is so different from what our idea of it is.
Yeah.
So you could be waiting for stuff for a long time, and struggles can happen for a long time. And that's because and God's got a plan through that. And the idea, I think, in a lot of waiting seasons is almost to teach us to just be content with just having Jesus and having to wait on other things. Because when we base how good we're doing and how happy we are off of circumstances, well, that's always going to be...
It's always
never
going to
be fulfilling.
You know?
Yeah. I feel like waiting seasons, too, it's instead of being like, I just need to wait in this waiting season and, like, know that it'll come to an end, it's been helpful to shift my perspective and be like, okay, I'm in this season, and it might not be the season that I want to be in, but God's using me in a way.
Yeah.
Like,
You're there for a reason.
Exactly. Yeah, instead of always trying to get on to the next thing or escape the waiting season, be content, like you said, with just being with God, and then look at, like, what is God trying to teach me, or how is God trying to use me in this season, because he's that man always up to something.
Exactly. And like we were talking about in James, the first thing it says in James is to count trials as joy. Waiting doesn't have to just look like sitting around praying on Sundays and being like, okay, God, waiting to hear from you, and then just not really kind of digging in with him anymore until you get that blessing or something. In James it says count trials as joy, so you can count your waiting season as a chance to see what God is teaching you. Maybe it's giving you a chance, maybe other things are calming down in your life so that you can dig more into scripture, or, like...
Shift your perspective. Yeah.
And whatever God is putting you through, anything he's putting you through is something that you can grow in.
There's a purpose for it,
Yeah.
Whether he's growing you, or he's working on something that is coming into your life at some point that you're waiting on, something is being prepared. So it's not just like wasted time. Things are being worked on. He's not just sitting up there. He's not just doing nothing. He's working on it.
Literally. I think that's so beautiful too, because I think a lot about how to I saw a video once where this guy was talking about the picture of God handing us our every breath, giving us each moment. That's a really good thing to come back to, because then when we're going through a trial, God is still giving us each and everything that we have. He's giving us still the ability that you woke up this morning. So there's always a chance to be honoring God in some way. You know?
Tying into kind of what you said, when in the Bible it also says, be still and know that I'm God. But obviously that doesn't mean physically be still, sit still, and just wait. It means continue going through your life, continue going through your day, but focus, remember, shift your perspective, know that he's God in every part of your life, whatever you're going through.
Yeah, I think it's more of a be still, as in don't try to take your own control.
Mm-hmm.
I have that.
Surrender control. Surrender your will to His will.
Psalm 46 verse 10 says, "Stop fighting and know that I am God," which sounds similar to the be still and know that I am God.
Yeah.
Which ties into the surrender.
Stop fighting His plans for you.
Too, which is really cool.
Yeah.
When we're waiting for something from God and we see an opportunity that's not right from Him, but it's like, oh, this seems easier or it's quicker, it's like trying to fit a puzzle piece into a spot that doesn't fit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a video. We watched a video once in church. Why do I remember this? And it was a video of like someone trying to fit a triangle into a circle-shaped hole. Something like that.
I don't remember why.
No, I don't remember why. But it's like that. Don't try to jam shapes into the wrong shapes.
Yeah.
It'll never be fulfilling.
Yeah,
it doesn't work.
Instructions are coming.
Yeah.
Yep.
You'll get them eventually. Okay.
Okay, waiting season. Okay, examples in each of our lives that firsthand experienced.
English.
Whatever. They can, if they speak English, they can probably piece that together in some way.
Of waiting seasons that we have experienced.
Okay. For me, recently, I'm sure there have been a lot more. I know there have been a lot more. But in the fall, I guess in the summer and the fall of last year, I was praying a lot about, like, where I'm going after high school, and I did not really get an answer that's why I didn't even apply to anywhere until, like, November, December. Mm-hmm. And then it took a long time to hear back, and I was still thinking on things, and then I applied somewhere else in January, and then things got lost in the mail, so I didn't really find out till February. So, like, that's months of praying and waiting.
You're like,
and
God, it's
knowing.
getting closer. Like, every month that passes,
literally,
we're getting really close, God.
I was praying, and I was trying so hard, but I was like, the deadline is right around the corner. I can't apply after this date. Can you please tell me?
Get back to me, thanks.
But eventually it worked itself out, and I kept praying and I kept trusting, and it's not what I thought I was going to do. It's not, my first 3 plans fell through, so it's not any of those, but it's crazy how things just fall into place eventually. It's just, you have to get through that season of waiting. And then you have peace. Hopefully. If it's from God, you will.
Yeah. I would say that right now I'm in a waiting season. Because, so the path that I'm on now for after high school is deep down like what I've always really wanted to do. But the reason it wasn't my first choice was because in my eyes it wasn't practical. God broke through in my life. He got through to me and was like, okay, well, but if it's my plan for you, then I'm gonna make it work out.
Yeah.
So I'd say I'm in a waiting season right now of, okay, I'm on the path that I know God wants me on, but I don't really know where it's gonna lead. Mm-hmm. I'm, like, done my education. So I'd say I'm in a waiting season. Well, I know where it could lead, but I don't have my ducks as much in a row as I did with my past plan. So I'm kind of in a waiting season, I'd say, of like, okay, God, I'm taking the steps, but I don't see the top of the mountain.
It's like that verse about He's the lamp to our feet, like to our feet. So you can only see 1 or 2 steps ahead. You can't see where you're going. You can't see where you're gonna end up. But you're trusting, and He's guiding you every step. You just don't know where it's gonna lead. But if you know that it's God's plan, I know it's hard to not worry, but that's reassuring to know that.
Yeah, it is.
And be confident
it's
in
pretty
that.
cool. Sure.
I feel like I'm kind of at the end of a season in my life. I don't know where it's going. It's like Kedah said, we don't know how long it's going to last.
Yeah.
But I feel like not really a waiting season, but more so just a season in my life or a situation. I wanted to change it, and I was always looking for the next step. So with friends in high school, there's always, I feel like boys probably have it too. It feels like it's especially for girls, where there's always different friend dynamics, and there's so many factors that play into it. And I feel like whenever there's a bad dynamic or something, I was always trying to fix it or move on and just jump up to the next step. And then I went through a little period at the beginning of this year where friend dynamics, they just felt kind of weird. And I was like, okay, well, I only have 1 more year of high school left. This is just a few months, and then I can just graduate high school and move on to the next part of my life. And that was kind of the mode that my brain was in. It's like, just buy the rest of my time. But I feel like God's done his thing. He's worked a bit. And it's like, no, that's a really bad way to look at it. And there's some really great girls in the high school that I'm blessed to have great friendships. And instead of, like, focusing on the little negative thing that is bad in, like, any friendship, be like, okay, yeah, there's negatives, but there's also positives. So even if whatever circumstance that I'm in doesn't seem like it's great in the moment, it's like, how is God trying to use me, and what's God trying to teach me in this moment? So I feel like that's kind of the season that I've been in for a really long time, of not trying to fix things on my own. And I'm slowly learning just to let God use me, because I can't control what dynamics are going to happen. I can just control how I let God use me.
That's a cool point of not getting stuck in a mentality of, like, whatever, like, this is just for now, I'll just push through until the next thing comes. And focusing on, well, I'm in this stage of life right now, so I'm in it. God put me to be in it for a reason, so what can I do? What can I learn?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That is really cool.
I don't know if that fits with waiting season.
No, actually, I've experienced that too. I've been like, oh, this is, okay, it's 2 months, I can push through, just focus on the next thing, just don't think about it. And then you switch your mindset, kind of, and you're like, okay, actually, though, what can I learn in this? Because I don't want to be in this again, but I'm here, so what can I do?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good mindset
it's
switch.
Easier said than done.
It is, yes, for sure.
Back on the thingy about not being idle while you're waiting for something, not being lazy, not just not doing anything. I saw something somewhere that was a little bit interesting that I thought about. Maybe that in some cases, idleness could show a lack of faith. Because if you're not trying to maybe search for, like, the next step you can take, or what's the thing I can learn right now from God, and you're just kind of sitting back being like, well, I'm waiting, so I don't have to search for meaning and blah, blah, blah. If you're just like, oh, I'm waiting, and that's all you chalk it up to, it could show that maybe you don't trust that God is going, like, that there is still a plan in the moment. You know? If you're in a waiting season, you're waiting for answers, I think that it's still okay to step out and just take steps in a direction with the intent of, what, like, I'm trying to pursue God, I'm just going to go in the direction I think he wants me in. Then I think that is still good, because if you do that with a mindset of God will redirect you if you're on the wrong path, then that's also putting your faith in him. You know? Yeah. Because if you go in with the intention of, okay, God is taking me somewhere, I don't know where that is, so I'm just going to keep going for now, and he'll redirect you to where you need to be.
That's very true. Yeah. It's hard to decipher what God has, I guess, put on our hearts for our lives, and what we have, like, front-faced on our hearts that we want in our lives. Front-faced? Like,
what is front-faced?
Like, brought up. Like, brought...
Surface.
Yeah.
Okay.
I understand.
You haven't heard that term before?
No, is that a term?
I don't think I've heard it, but I've...
Yeah, like, bring things to the surface. Anyway. But I think that it really, if you're just spending time with God and you're surrendered and you're focusing on his will instead of your own, and there's still something on your heart that you feel like he's calling to, then I think that you can trust that that is what he's calling you to. And if that doesn't work out, then we have to accept that, I guess, that wasn't His will for our lives, which can be really hard to accept if you're dead set on certain things. Like, yeah.
Oh, it was just on the tip of my brain.
But I guess as long as we're surrendered, then...
And think about how more shallow our faith would be if we never had to wait on things and if we knew the entire plan. Because then you'd never have an opportunity to depend on God.
Yeah.
You'd never had an opportunity to trust Him.
It takes the faith part out of faith.
Yeah, exactly.
If we just had a binder telling us all the things...
Like, age 17, apply to college.
We wouldn't need to have a real relationship with God.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I feel like it'd be so much more pointless in a way. Like, the relationship is what God wants.
Faith is trust in something.
Faith,
Yeah.
trust,
So-
and pixie dust. Yeah.
So without trust, if we don't have a reason to trust Him, then we don't have faith,
Yes.
basically.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
We don't have opportunities to be more... To put all of our faith in Him.
Yeah.
If we just knew the whole plan, then we'd know that it's gonna happen. But we need to.
If we just had the whole manual too, then there'd be no incentive to actually get to know God.
Yeah.
Like,
To talk to Him.
They'd be
and
like,
to
yeah,
hear-
here's my plan, thanks.
yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
Like, we would never know Him.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Next thing I'm gonna say is that waiting for what God has for you versus what works for you right now that you can bring to yourself is very beautiful. Even if people's lives might look different, or even I can use marriage as an example. If like all of your friends are getting married and you're still single, that is just as beautiful as your friends having relationships, you know? Psalm 27 verse 14 says, "Wait for the Lord, be strong and let your heart be courageous." Wait for the Lord.
Yeah.
So they're equating waiting on God's plan with strength. So it's so cool that we can draw on strength from God and show that strength waiting for knowing He's going to come through. Shows that we have a beautiful trust that we know that God has saved something for us that's good. We just don't know when it is, but we know something's going to come, you know? He's got us on the right path
Yeah.
if we're depending on Him.
And you might be in a season, like, there's so many different situations that waiting on God can apply to. You can be waiting for so many things. And really just continuing, like, praying specific prayers is helpful. Of, like, what you want, what you need help with, whatever. But being specific is helpful. And also, if you're struggling, speaking scriptures into your life, memorizing them or writing them down or speaking them over yourself is also very helpful, especially in surrender too.
The main thing that I would say is to not get stuck. When you can be waiting on God for things and not be stuck. Don't get so caught up in waiting. I'm waiting. Like, don't mistake that for, like I said earlier, like praying once about whatever you're waiting for on Sunday and then just going through the rest of your days, well, I'm waiting for this.
Waiting season is almost such a bad name for us because
Mhm.
I feel like just I think of waiting. It's like, yeah, I'm sitting here bored with nothing to do, just
And that's
waiting.
what you're
And
all, that's your whole
yeah,
life.
that
You're
is,
just
like,
waiting. That's
the
what
exact
you are doing.
opposite of what God's waiting season is, though. It's like almost a transformation season.
Yeah.
Oh, I like
Yes.
that.
He's doing something.
Because
Because we're
We
not
can
just
get-
doing nothing.
we can make
No.
quote-unquote waiting an idol.
Yeah.
Of like, yeah, I'm sitting here doing nothing. And you could say that, well, I'm in my waiting season, I'm really not seeing God working. Well, one, you might not be seeing Him working because you stopped searching for Him in your life because you were like, oh, He hasn't answered this one specific thing, He must not be here anymore. Two, there's so much opportunity still to be, like, growing and communicating with God, because just because you might not be hearing from Him doesn't mean that He's absent. Like we've said time and time again, it's like you're in the middle of a trial, you're waiting for something, there's something to learn still.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That plays into being faithful in the little things. All the little things you go through your life. So you're following God's will in all the little things. Then eventually the big thing that you're quote unquote waiting for, you're gonna be able to be faithful through it.
Mm-hmm.
If all that you can do for God is the next, like, right thing, I know a couple years ago at Youthquake they said, like, give God your next yes. If that just looks like going downstairs and helping your mom with the dishes, then you're still on a path closer to Him.
Yeah, you're still being faithful. Whether it's a little thing or a big thing.
Which is so cool. Very cool.
And He sees it. And just because He's not answering you doesn't mean He's not there and He's not listening. He might just be working on it. Working on it in the back workshop where you can't hear Him and you can't see Him.
It's been really great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
you, Charlotte.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
It's a good conversation. It's fun having guests.
It's so fun having
It's
guests.
fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, stay faithful. We'll see you next.
Stay blessed.
Stay blessed. We'll see you in 2 weeks with something.
With something. Goodness knows what. But we'll see you then.
We're in a waiting season.
Yeah.
We'll let you know when He lets
That's
us
really
know.
good.
Okay.
What do we say? All for Jesus.
All for Jesus.